Welcome to Pick Up and Deliver, the podcast where I pick up my audio recorder as I leave the game store and deliver an episode to you while I walk home. I'm Brendan Riley. Well, good afternoon, listeners. It's a lovely day here in suburban Chicago. I'm on my walk home from the game store, and I am talking to you about games. In the last episode, I talked about my top 5 games of 2022 and gave you 5 runners-up as well. These are games that I have played that were published in 2022. And today I'm doing the second of my 2 Game Award episodes that I like to do each year, and I call this the Superlatives Award. When I started doing Game Awards, not that long ago, I found that there were often games that I had played from a year that I wanted to call out for my listeners because I like them in some way. I think they're interesting, but they don't meet the criteria of best game of the year. You know, as I think about which games do I think are best, most of these games would not make that list. In fact, as you're going to see, these games didn't even make the 5 honorable mentions. So of the 10 games I picked that are the best for me from the year, these games still didn't make it. But I still want to tell you about them. Hence, the Superlatives episode. So what I'm going to do is talk about, I think, 6 different games, giving them a Superlative Award, and then at the end I'll run through all the other games from 2022 that I played and considered. So if you find at the end of this that there's a game from 2022 that I really should have played, and I don't list it as a game I played, then boy howdy, you better get over to Board Game Geek Guild 3269 and let me know which game I should be playing that I missed. Alternately, you could also send me a note about why you like the game or why you disagree with me about these or whatever. All right, here we go. So first game, getting the award for most deluxe copy that I'm jealous of, but I'm glad I didn't buy because I like the game, but I don't know if I like the game that much. This goes to Foundations of Rome. So Foundations of Rome is from Arcane Wonders. This is a game that comes in a massive box like the size of a Kallax, and inside there are a series of trays with different player pieces on them, and then there's a central board where players are going to place buildings. It is a relatively straightforward game in which you place the buildings by drawing cards and putting the buildings out, and you get points based on where you put the buildings and so on. And it's really neat to look at. It's a beautiful game. It's fun to play because you're putting out these big buildings, you're filling up, you're building the city of Rome. And the game has a bunch of really interesting scoring conditions that are very accessible. This is definitely a light to mid-weight strategy game that you play in about an hour. It's from designer Emerson Matsuuchi, and it shows he is really good at these kind of crisp, tightly controlled, efficient games. I like it a lot. Every time I've played it, I enjoyed it, but I'm glad I didn't buy it. It's really expensive, and it's the sort of game that I enjoy playing once a year. I think I've played 3 times maybe, and when people say, hey, you want to play Foundations of Rome? My thinking is, yeah, I'll play that. But I think if somebody said, hey, I know we played last week, but do you want to play Foundations of Rome again? I'd say, okay. But then the third week, I'd be like, maybe we can play something else. It's definitely a game that I think is fun occasionally, but I don't think would be a permanent top choice for me. So that's Foundations of Rome. My next superlative is Best Abstract Game of the Year. So this is a game that, again, I was a little bit cool on the first time I played it. This is Acropolis. Now, at first glance, for me, Acropolis was very similar to a number of other games that I've played. And the reality is, it is. This is a tile-laying game in which you have tiles that are triangular. They're it's like 3 hexes connected. So it's like a triple hex triangle. And each hex has a color on it. So it is either a space of a particular color, or it is a space with a star of that color. And the way the game works is that whenever you get a tile, you pick from this market, you pay these resources if you don't want to take the bottom tile from the market, and you add it to your city. When you add it to your city, you are putting it next to other pieces, and what you're trying to do is make contiguous areas of a particular color. And then when you get to scoring, those areas score based on which colors you picked. It's a interesting game with amusing and varied scoring conditions, a thoughtful strategy where your points double if you're able to put a tile onto the second level, and they triple over the base level if you're able to put them on the third level. So there's an element of covering up things to get more scoring from other things. And there's a lot of interesting decisions to make in a tight 45 minutes. I played this once in person at Origins 2022, and I thought it was good, but I was like, man, I don't know if I need to play it. I have played it a number of times since then on Board Game Arena, and I've come to really enjoy it. But again, it sort of falls into that category of an interesting game that I would enjoy playing, but I really don't need to have in my collection. And there are other games that sort of land in a similar way, such that I don't necessarily need this one too. But I really like this one. If I didn't have any other games that felt like they land in a similar place, I would probably be all over picking up Acropolis. I believe Hachette Games is the publisher there. I don't recall the name of the designer. Next up for most interesting combo-tastic roll and write of the year is Three Sisters. Three Sisters is a, as I said, combo-tastic roll and write designed by Ben Pinchback and Matt Riddle as part of their 25th century, or a part of their Motor City Games imprint. I believe that they are partnering with 25th Century Games to distribute them. Basically, in these games, players are, in Three Sisters in particular, players are building a garden and growing crops and using the dice rolls that they're making to accelerate the crop growing and dice rolling that you're doing. If you've played Fleet the Dice game, this game feels very much like that one. I believe that they call it a crammed roll and write or a jam-packed roll and write, something like that. The idea of that game, of those games, is that you have these roll and writes full of little check boxes, and often when you check one box, you then get to check another one. One of the innovations they talk about with regard to Three Sisters is that it's so full that it has a little spot where you can write down things so you don't forget. Like I often use that to keep track of how many more actions I get, because as you're going along in the later part of the game, you can sometimes get an action that lets you have another action, which lets you have two more actions. And then as you're using the previous actions, you get more actions. So like there's this cascade of combo-tastic bonuses. That's really fun. Now I do have Fleet the Dice game also, and I did not back them for Motor City. And I think that they did another one since then. Basically, I've discovered I have enough combo-tastic dice games. Riverside is also in this field, although it's different enough that it doesn't feel the same. But I really like Three Sisters, and I thought it was an excellent addition to the oeuvre of jam-packed roll and writes. I did also play Twilight Inscription this year, which sort of fits in the same thing, but I liked Three Sisters much better. A lot of the same payoff, but at half the playtime. So that's Three Sisters. Next up is the best mystery game for the family that I played last year, and this is The Animals of Baker Street. So I mentioned in the honorable mentions that there was a game from the designers of Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective called the Bureau of Investigation, and also from the designers, or that was from the company that produced Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. From the designer of the newest Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective box, the Baker Street Regulars, we had Dave Graham? No, I can't remember his last name. Dave somebody. We have the game The Animals of Baker Street. This is with another designer as well. He's not the only one. The Animals of Baker Street is a really great kid-friendly mystery game in which you're solving mysteries in much the same way that you do in the Sherlock Holmes games, except they are sort of focused, they're accessible for kids, and they're focused on the animal kingdom. The idea is you are as the players, you are 4 different animals living in 221B Baker Street, helping out Sherlock Holmes's dog, solving mysteries. There is no big villain Ratigan, but we get awful close to that. I really like the feel of it. The mysteries are satisfying enough that playing in our family without any little children, we still had a good time, although they were a little easier than the Sherlock Holmes games tend to be. I still really enjoyed them. Dave Neal, Neale, is the designer of the game I'm talking about. So if you're looking for a mystery game suitable for family, I would say another runner-up that's not from 2022 would be Micro Macro Crime City, particularly the second and third ones. They've done 3 of them now, I believe. The second and third ones have markings to let you know which cases are kid-friendly and which ones are not. The original game did not, and had some that were definitely not kid-friendly. So that's the Animals of Baker Street. 2 more superlatives to go. The next one is a game I most wanted to like that wasn't as good as I'd hoped. This is Crossing Oceans. Now, I love steamships as a theme. I don't really want to go on cruise ships, but I love steamships. And so I really liked Transatlantic from Matt Gertz. It did not do all that well, but I thought it was interesting. It had some fun aspects of the Concordia hand management mechanism. Overall, I like Transatlantic quite a bit. I thought it was a good game, and I enjoyed it. And then, because I think Transatlantic was not very popular, Matt Gertz, I guess, decided to take another run at it, and he did so using a rondelle mechanism instead of the hand management card mechanism. I gotta say, I like the hand management better. That said, Crossing Oceans is an interesting twist on the game as well. It gives it a slightly different feel, but it's sort of like 80% the same. It's like a cover of the original game, like a cover of a song kind of. And they did this neat thing where if you had Transatlantic already, instead of buying the whole new game for $50 or $60, you could just buy the upgrade pack. And it was like $25, and then you got a new board and you got a whole bunch of new cards, but you use all the old pieces from the first game. So you really have then 2 games in one box if you wanted to play Crossing Oceans that way, which I do. I like it. So overall, Crossing Oceans, fun game. I like it. Not as good as Transatlantic, I don't think. But I've only played Crossing Oceans once, so maybe I need to give it another go. It is staying in my collection. I do like it. So that's Crossing Oceans. Game I wanted to like more than I did. And finally, tiniest game that got a lot of play is the 2-player cooperative game Smitten. Smitten is a 18-card micro game created and released by Jamie Stegmaier and Stonemaier Games as part of the 10th anniversary of that design studio. When I bought our copy of Wingspan Asia, you could, as an add-on Smitten, and I think it was free because of the 10th anniversary. I don't know if it's still free. I think it was free if you were buying, within a couple months of their 10th anniversary. And the way Smitten works, you each have a set of 9 cards. That's the same 9 cards as the other player. Maybe you have 18 cards. And on your turn, you're going to add 1 card to the grid and play the other card for its power. And the goal is to create 2 grids. Oh no, you each have the 18 cards, but you're building 2 grids of 9. So when you play a card to the grid, then you play a second card. The second card does a power that does something, and basically you have to work together to try to build the grid without running out of cards, or before you run out of cards, or before you get in a point where you can't play any of the cards. It's a relatively approachable game. Part of why I picked it, it's just gotten a lot of play. Like, it's very playable. You can play in like 10 minutes. So I've played a number of games with my kids, with my mother-in-law. When we have it on the road, it's a good game to play just while you're waiting for your food at a diner. Really good. So Smitten is the last superlative I want to talk about. And now, lest you think I've ignored a game, I'm going to run through, just list for you quickly, all the other games from 2022 that I played that I have not mentioned yet. Some of these games I've only played on Board Game Arena. Most of them I've played in person. Some of them I own, most of them I do not. All right, here we go. Planet Unknown, The Thing, the board game. Flamecraft, Rear Window, Wormholes, Heat, Pedal to the Metal. Wingspan Asia, Long Shot the Dice Game, Turing Machine, Cat in the Box, Creature Comforts, Weather Machine, Twilight Inscription, Merchants of the Dark Road, Vagrant Song, Perseverance, The Castaway Chronicles, Spots, Get on Board New York, Boop, Planted, The Isle of Cats Explore and Draw, Dog Park, Space Station Phoenix, Kites, Transmissions, My Shelfie, Applejack, Keystone North America, Astra, The Animals of Baker Street, Don't Go In There, Legacies, Lost Seas, Vivid Memories, Quirky Circuits, Tales from the Loop, The Gardens, Sweet and Spicy, and Stupefy. So, what 2022 games would you award special awards, and what would those awards be called? Head over to Board Game Geek Guild 3269 and let me know in the forums there. Thanks for joining me on my walk today. I hope your next walk is as pleasant as mine was. Bye-bye.
Brought to you by Rattlebox Games.